This time on Books That Changed My Life.
Tell me about your feelings on life in 7th grade.
Okay, so my feelings on life in 7th grade. It's my first Black teacher, my second Black teacher in middle school. And her name is Miss Baker at Lorbeer Middle School. And we're going to read Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Okay, this is my first type of like chapter type book, like heavy stuff. But I didn't know that. And living with my grandmother, she told us these exact stories growing up. But as a kid, you're like, okay, you're making up stuff or okay, whatever. But to pick up a book and literally hear the same type of stories that my grandmother's, was telling me, I'm like, okay, this really happened. And it made me look at her through a different lens. But this book was the first time through the lens of a character in which it's one thing for a 75-year-old woman to tell me, to tell me at the time in middle school, like, this is what I went through. But then for someone my age, Cassie, like, our main character in here, to kind of go through it with her and understanding, like, this is exactly what your grandmother went through in Jackson, Mississippi, because my family's from Yazoo City in Jackson, Mississippi. So I'm like, this is his last name, Taylor. I'm like, let me pay attention. Let me just sit up a little bit. And I think my teacher at the time saw that I sat up, a little bit more. But this was a big book for me. This truly is the book that changed.
Okay, but in 7th grade, are you popular?
In 7th grade, I am 100% that basketball girl, that soccer girl.
So sports.
Sports, yes.
So popular?
Popular.
You feel good about life? You feel good about where things are headed?
I am closeted. So everything is great except for...
Do you date boys?
I don't date anyone.
Oh.
I don't date anyone.
And does anybody ask?
They ask. It's there. The questions are there, like, oh, you're in sport, but you deny. I mean, this is like, what, the early 90s. So, and then there's, nobody around you. You got Ellen, but that as far as what I'm seeing, the representation. So it's very kind of like there's a whole part of me that is nobody knows about.
And you knew from
very beginning. Kindergarten. I remember standing up on top of that slide at Golden Springs Elementary talking about, yeah, you like girls.
Do you remember the first girl that
I sure do.
Well,
I cannot. I will not reveal the name, but I do.
Well,
it was in kindergarten. Long brunette hair. I don't even like. I maybe it was the hair, but yeah, I do. What? But you're still a kid, so you're like, I like you, and not in a way more than a friend.
Yeah.
Because I like these people as friends, but
there's a magic there.
There's some magic there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't tell anybody.
No.
When was
absolutely not?
When was the first time you told somebody?
I want to say it was probably when I was working on Friends. It was that long. Yeah.
When was your first relationship that you would consider substantial?
I would say substantial, like in college. I say college, but like once I kind of got into the industry and it was no longer, Ellen was my only kind of representation that I saw. So it felt like the moment I came into the entertainment industry, I came alive because I was around people that were like me of all different colors, there was no judgment. There was so like a lot of my freedom came from literally the show Friends.
So how do you navigate all those expectations in school, like prom?
I'm a storyteller.
Right, but what is the story you tell in that situation?
I have a soccer game that weekend. I'm busy.
And
not even
Were you just happy to have it off the plate, or did it bother you?
It didn't bother me at all. I was happy to have it off the plate. No, I'm not. Kim will never run to jump in a dress. No. I'm not running, so I'm just looking to dodge that,
And once you dodge it, you're good.
Once you dodge it, you're good. I don't care.
On to the next.
Yes, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Saved money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you feel about race in 7th grade?
I I was cool. I never have had, I grew up in Southern California. So it's everybody. It's a melting pot. But like that book in particular, I think it was the first time I had to hear this out loud. This was reading out loud and with your friends and your peers. And this isn't like a book that you just kind of go home and you can talk to mom and be like, hey, it says this in here, or grandma says this.
It's different.
It hits different in front of everyone,
Right.
and being one of a few Black people in that, in the classroom, and you're reading out loud. When I look back, I'm like, there was a reason Miss Baker had us read that out loud. Everything, that was all kind of calculated. And I'll never forget when we got to the first kind of moment where, in the book, Cassie does something and she stands down, or like one of the big moments where she has to apologize for something that she didn't do. And I will never forget the comment I made. And I was like, I would have told that girl X, Y, Z. And Miss Baker was like, no, you wouldn't have. Not at that time, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't have. And so that made me go home and ask my grandma, like, so let me ask you a little bit more. So this book actually allowed us to bond in a different way, that we hadn't before.
And because you understood her.
I understood her.
Yeah.
Through the lens of it. Yeah. I mean, she, like, the opening is, Cassie and her brothers walking to school and having to deal with the white kids on the bus and intentionally, swerving to get mud. My grandmother, every day we had to walk to school from Battle Street all the way down Jefferson. And the kids are like, look at all the ends. Look at the little ends walking. I'm like, I'm like, Grandma, like, that's what, she's like, yeah, it's every day. Every day. I'm like, wow. So this became like, this is real. This is real. And a way to engage with my grandmother, besides soap operas, in history, in a lived history. And from that moment on, I was just constantly kind of going to her to inquire. I mean, the book takes place in Jackson, Mississippi. My family's from Jackson, Mississippi. Lenny Taylor, my grandmother, Mildred Taylor. I'm like, there's something very special about that book that I will always.
That's amazing.
Yeah.